It's time to get educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. This is the Dr. Duke Show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show. We've got a great show for you, so please hit that share button and keep us growing across the country and across the world. Today, we're kicking things off with a little visit across the pond where a student bravely went on TV to discuss how mask wearing and COVID lockdowns in schools have crippled education and the well-being of children across the world. Now, we haven't seen a lot of this. You know, we have the main stakeholders in all of this masking and all of this stilted education are the children. And in America, we don't hear from any of them. I mean, we've had a lot of moms and dads at school boards. We've had people complaining in that way. But in Europe, where particularly England, where this seems to be more buttoned down, they're much more authoritarian about it, if you can believe that, than even here in America. And the children are much more reserved to be able to about speaking out against this stuff than they are in America. We had one young woman actually break down, and she's a little hard to follow in terms of her accent, but I did want to play for you her comments on what these lockdowns and the way that education has been handled for the last 2.5 years, for her at least, has been a disaster.
I sat there in August and literally watched my future crumble in front of my eyes. Because of why? Well, they cancelled my exams. So I got my exams cancelled once, went back and thought, no, you know what, this is not on. I'm not getting screwed over by the algorithm. I'm better than this. Got there, they cancelled them again. And I thought, they literally ruined our lives. And nobody spoke about it at all. And the commentators, they had union reps come on and say, this is what the schools should have put in place. And they didn't care about what this did to us. And this is the first time I've ever spoken about it on TV because I knew that I'd cry about it. But I literally watched and felt like my entire life was falling apart because of what this government did to young people, and nobody cares. Not one person has cared about children in this pandemic. They think, oh, why are we putting masks on them when people can go to football stadiums and they can go to theatres and play Nadeem Zahawi sitting there at the teaching awards with no mask, and yet we're disrespecting kids. This pandemic will finish. The damage this has done for us is forever.
You know, she makes one really great point, because in England, the exams that what we would call middle and elementary high school kids take, the exams that the high school kids take in Europe, particularly England, they really do determine who gets into college and who doesn't. It's not like an American educational system where there's a college in every city, multiple colleges in every city, and basically there's 1,000 ways into an American university, even if you're not qualified. It's a pathetic system we have here, but that's what they like. It's the inclusion nature, right? It's not really higher education in America anymore. If everybody gets to go, including kids who ought not be here and cannot do the work, it's not really higher ed. They do take that more seriously in Europe, particularly England. And so the young woman makes a good point that with all the playing around with her exams, all the scheduling and canceling them, all the difficulty of being able to take them, really messed with the algorithm, right? Really, she was not demonstrating her best. She hadn't been taught her best. With all the lockdowns and the canceled classes and the weak distance learning, her future's on the line, she says, because, you know, a lot depends on how you do everything depends on how you do on these tests, whether you get to go to college or the college that you want to do, or the kind of work you want to do when you do get to college. All of that's hanging in the balance here. And for her, the whole thing is messed up. And she asked another really great question. How come nobody cares about this? A generation of children at every age level are being completely cheated out of an education, and nobody seems to care, as she points out. And the hypocrisy of this. We were talking about this in America just the other day. I think it was Michigan State University allowed 15,000 standing-only capacity to go to the Michigan State basketball game, but they canceled for January classes. They canceled classes to the start of the new school year because somehow sitting 6 feet apart with masks on your face is more dangerous than going maskless with 15,000 people screaming and yelling and spitting all over the place. The young lady has a real point here. And no one's talking about this generation in the same way, and you mark my words, in 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years, in the same way, no one's talking about what these rush-to-market vaccines, what consequences they may have for these very children 5, 10, and 20 years down the road, when no one will care after the fact.
Today's show is sponsored by our friends at MyPillow. Save up to 66% on all items at MyPillow.com when you use the code Dr. Duke. That's DRDUKE. Support this show by supporting a great American company.
Okay, we are joined now by our international correspondent, Alex Newman. Alex, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Duke. Great to be with you.
Another great report from the Newman Report. We have a situation in Colorado where some high school kids went undercover to see if they could get a COVID shot without the proper procedures. They don't really want the shot, but they wanted to expose whether or not school would give it to them anyway. And yes, to the surprise of nobody, the school caved. Tell the story, Alex.
Yeah, it is unconscionable, Duke. So you have these two students, a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old. You're right, they did not want the shot. But the Heritage High School in Denver, Colorado, set up a vaccine clinic. And the superintendent, Ewert, I believe his last name was, said, hey, yeah, nobody's going to be able to get a shot without their parents present. Don't worry, we're not going to just be willy-nilly injecting your underage children with vaccines. And, of course, it's exactly what they were doing. These two kids showed up. They gave fake names. They weren't even asked for ID. There was no parent there. One of them had a fake consent form. And, oh, yeah, sure, here's your shot. Right, and obviously the kids walked off before actually getting the injection. But this is happening all across the country. Dude, we wrote a story on this for the Newman Report at Freedom Project probably a month ago, where in Louisiana and Oregon and New York, they're shoving these experimental injections into the arms of children without the permission and consent of their parents. It is an atrocity happening, and yet it is completely expected.
Do you think there'll be any fallout for the kids who did this? Usually, the public schools, when they're caught in this kind of sting, let's say, they are very vindictive. What do you expect the next step will be at this school? Or could it go the other way? Could the school actually be forced to fire somebody and crack down on this violation of policy?
My guess is they're going to just hope it goes away. The dad sent a very angry email to the school officials, and that was shared with some of the reporters who broke this. And there's a lot of anger in the community. You know, even people who want their kids to get these injections, and I don't know very many of them. In fact, I can't think of any. Everybody, I think, agrees that parents ought to be involved in the medical decisions that are being made for their children. So to have these types of decisions being made behind the parents' back, even after promising that it wouldn't happen, is unconscionable. And I think if the scandal gets too big, the school will probably have somebody fall on their sword. But I think their preference would be to just retaliate against these kids and pretend like it never happened.
Alex, you and I both know, really, we both understand that way behind this is the progressive Great Reset left. And one of the great premises of the New World Order here, educationally, is going to be your kids' emotional learning and health skill, all that stuff. Every aspect of childhood belongs to the state, not to the parents. And we've seen this in every walk of life, how they're trying to segregate, cut out parents from medical decisions and educational decisions. Here in Virginia, what do we see, right? We had a new governor, passes a law, says, hey, masks are not mandated, and now the public schools are immediately suspending kids who show up on campus without masks. This is how the left works. It's how they get down to business. I'd be remiss before we left if we didn't take a look at the video, a short little clip of the video of what happened in Colorado.
How old are you?
I am 15.
You have to have an adult, honey.
Oh, I brought this, I don't know if this works or not, but...
We have to have a consent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he does?
You got one? All right, you're good to go, bud.
All right, thank you very much.
Just stand right over here and open it.
The video was a long 5 minutes, so we fast forwarded after we got through the main point, where a 16-year-old kid with fake documentation slips it past the monitors of this, and they were all ready to give the injection to the young man. Pretty remarkable.
Yeah, and that's happening across the country, dude. They're offering these kids $100 gift cards. They're offering them pizza parties if they get their injections. And the kids think, hey, all I have to do is fake my parents' signature on this. They sure, I'll do it, right? In New York, they had people, calling in. An older friend calls in and says, oh, yeah, I'm their parent. They could take the shot, right? And when you're offering kids these big bonuses and when you're pressuring them and you're telling them they're irresponsible if they don't take it, of course kids will defy their parents' wishes. And if you don't have systems in place, like they obviously don't in Colorado, then a lot of those kids are going to end up getting the injection. It's, in my opinion, an absolute crime.
There's so much that's criminal about this, and I really fear for this country 5, 10, 20 years down the road where the possibility of long-term consequences may set in. Because you know as well as I do, the government will not allow any kind of lawsuit to come after these monsters and these ghouls.
That's right. And they all have immunity. And, to go back to that question that you asked, who owns the children? That's the question that we all need to be thinking about, because the state wants to raise your children for you. They want to educate and medicate and feed your children for you. If you don't stand in the way, that's where this is all going. So be careful, folks.
Today's show is sponsored by Clean Start Hand Sanitizer. For an odor-free foam hand sanitizer that lasts 2 hours and provides 19 refills, visit freedomproject.com/clean. That's KLEEN to order yours today.
Someone should call an ambulance because we're in a state of whiplash by what has been happening these past few weeks. And maybe that's why Joe Biden called Fox News' Peter Doocy a stupid son of a b. Things are getting upside down and all around, but old Joe Biden remains the same mean old man that he truly is.
Do you think inflation is a political liability?
That's a great asset. More inflation. What a stupid son of a bitch.
That was a little bit of a doozy Biden just dropped on the hot mic when Peter asked if inflation was a political liability. But again, Joe provides us all consistency of emotion. Which brings us to today's question. What is the best emotion to describe Joe Biden? Let me know your feelings in the comments below. And if you could share the video to really let your emotions out and about, that'd be much appreciated. And if you're looking for the words, feel free to follow Scott Jennings' sentiment.
The mandate was simply replace Donald Trump and don't do anything drastic or stupid. And everything about this agenda is extremely drastic. And he's been angrier than I think people expected. He's been more divisive. He's been more partisan. You look at the issues. We built 5 years of coverage on Trump out of Russia, COVID, and democracy. The president at his press conference invites Russia to invade the Ukraine. We got more deaths under Biden than Trump. And now we have the president and vice president and leading Democrats question the legitimacy of the 2022 election. Are we any better off on these three issues that we crucified Trump over? I think he has a lot of political problems, and an AP poll came out this morning. Only 28% of Americans want the sitting president to run for re-election, and fewer than half of Democrats. This is a disaster.
Whoa, 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 Mr. Jennings. Be a little more positive.
Well, the president can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Now, if I had to guess what you are typing in the comments, Biden's consistency of emotion is most likely contempt, disdain, disgust, or a multitude of other adjectives at the ineptitude of the one some are calling President of the United States. But he thinks he's doing a great job. Just watch his face as his list of failures is read to him, and then listen closely to how he responds.
Inflation is up. Your signature domestic legislation is stalled in Congress. In a few hours from now, the Senate, an effort in the Senate to deal with voting rights and voting reform legislation is going to fail. COVID-19 is still taking the lives of 1,500 Americans every day. And the nation's divisions are just as raw as they were a year ago. Did you overpromise to the American public what you could achieve in your first year in office? And how do you plan to course correct going forward?
Why are you such an optimist? Look, I didn't overpromise, but I have probably outperformed what anybody thought would happen.
He's correct. I didn't think it would actually get as bad as it has because I'm an optimist. But that guy thinks Doocy is a stupid SOB, and that guy gets defensive when asked logical questions. At least Peter has a sense of humor about the president being petty and deflective.
So, Doocy, I think the president's right. You are a stupid SOB.
Yeah, nobody has fact-checked him yet and said it's not true.
No one's given Pinocchios for that one. No, but so you're now, I guess, everyone's talking about you. You're going to be known as the stupid SOB guy. I mean, before you were like the hair guy with the blonde hair. Now you're stupid SOB. Is this something you're embracing, Peter?
Do I have a choice? The White House and the communications officials here had been signaling last week when they had their first year in office anniversary that they were going to take a different approach with reporters. And we thought that meant after he did the 2-hour press conference, he's just going to be available for Q&A more often. But maybe it's more stuff like this.
Meanwhile, in response to Biden calling Doocy a stupid SOB, naturally, CNN's Jim Loves Himself Acosta made it all about him. Because, as I just said, he loves himself.
Don, you and I got called a lot worse back in the day. We never got an apology. I don't remember that from the commander-in-chief.
They can't let it go. Can't stop, won't stop. Trump hasn't been president for more than a year, but to them it's Groundhog Day, and they need it to be because no one fawns over them anymore. Everyone is too busy watching the network where people can laugh at themselves. Ducey has a sense of humor. Acosta has no soul. And at the end of the press conference, even Biden alluded to how the news is construed.
Well, I shouldn't get into this. But the nature of the way things get covered has, in my observation over the years I've been involved in public life, changed. And it's changed because of everything from a thing called the internet. It's changed because of the way in which we have self-identified perspectives based on what channel you turn on, what network you look at, not network, what cable you look at. And it's never quite been like that. Anyway.
A thing called the internet. Forgive Joe. He's been around since dirt was first laid, so a thing called the internet is new to him. You must also remember that Biden's only ever been in government jobs, so for him to try to relate to a normal human being is quite the challenge. He must clutch to his precious, the binder. It's literally keeping him propped up while he struggles to make a coherent statement.
Look, maybe I'm kidding myself, but as time goes on, the voter who is just trying to figure out, as I said, how to take care of their family, put 3 squares on the table, stay safe, be able to pay their mortgage or their rent, etc., is becoming much more informed on the motives of some of the political players and some of the political parties.
Huh? What? When these types of responses are more often than not, even the couch-cuddling media has to turn, and signs are pointing toward a possible breakup.
President Biden's news conference on Wednesday was designed to kick off a second-year reset of his presidency. Recapture his political identity, if you will. But our new NBC News poll suggests Mr. Biden does need a reset because he's lost his identity a bit. He's no longer seen as competent and effective. He's no longer seen as a good commander-in-chief, or perhaps most damaging, as easygoing and likable. In fact, just 5% of adults say Mr. Biden has performed better than expected as president. One of the many lowests, firsts, and fewests in our poll.
No longer, or really never was, and yeah, of course it is one of the lowest, firsts, and fewest in a poll you conduct. But I am not complaining. I'm genuinely happy some people are pulling their heads out of their holes, if you will, and looking around at the rest of us who have had our eyes open this entire time. For those who need more visual explanation, let Chuck Todd explain.
I'm going to start with perhaps the most important number to understand the direction of the midterms. It's job approval here. The president's job approval rating sitting at 43%. If you look at history shows that kind of presidential approval rating leads to a shellacking for the party in power. How about the mood of the nation? Well, let me show you this. Right now, our wrong track, nation's on the wrong track number, sitting at 72%. Second poll in a row where we've been over 70%. This is only the third time in our polls history over 30 years where we've had 2 tracks that were that off. That, again, would put you in shellacking territory for the party in power.
So what we're saying is, get ready for a shellacking. No one likes what the Biden administration is doing. No one. For once, we are united. Biden has fulfilled a promise.
From the kickoff of his campaign.
Yes, unity over division.
To the start of his presidency.
My whole soul is in this, bringing America together.
Joe Biden's cast himself as a voice of unity.
I'll work with Democrats and Republicans.
He's done it. He united us in saying what a failure this presidency has been 1 year in. We're only on the brink of World War III, and Biden is just telling Russia to go for it, kick the crap out of Ukraine. The world power that used to be the United States is laying out the red commie carpet for Russia to wipe your feet and the existence of freedom.
And so I think what you're going to see is that Russia will be held accountable if it invades. And it depends on what it does. It's one thing if it's a minor incursion and then we end up having a fight about what to do and not do, etc.
Come again? Circle back, please. Interestingly enough, Vladimir Putin was heard on a hot mic as well after Biden made his comments.
Such an unbelievable moment.
Brandon, you also told me you can hear the chants from the crowd. Let's go, Brandon.
Hey now, if you are at home minding your own business and you are just sick and tired of what you keep seeing out of the federal government, well, just chillax.
My advice to everyone out there who's frustrated, sad, angry, pissed off, feel those emotions, go to a kickboxing class, have a margarita, do whatever you need to do this weekend, and then wake up on Monday morning, we got to keep fighting.
Kamalama Ding Dong prefers to inhale her frustrations away, but we can talk about that another time. But more importantly, I thought we weren't allowed to drink margaritas in the name of cultural appropriation and all. Very quickly, since we are on the note of those who sound like Karens, the, kickboxing and margarita drinking variety, I want to address the whiplash we are having. Because Starbucks is going to actually abide by the Supreme Court saying you don't have to take the jab. So stop the espresso and stop the jab. The Starbucks, who bows to all that is left, is going to make some logical sense. Maybe something about having the biggest contingent of possible Karens not getting their morning vanilla latte with soy milk after school drop-off had something to do with this business move. Just maybe. Because the bottom line is they still need the money to operate. Soy doesn't grow on trees. Meanwhile, Carhartt, which used to be a clothing company that provided quality outdoor gear for working individuals, but now is seen on millennials and Gen Z hipsters who want to be ironic or some shenanigans, their CEO, Mark Valade, is still mandating staff members to get the jab to work for the company, which is their prerogative. But when the working man's company requires the jab and the far left company is going to allow actual freedom, something is adrift. And it may be a sign of things to come. Time will tell. I'll keep taking note of this crazy upside down time we're living and let you know what is happening. Know that I don't think you are a stupid SOB, even if the President of the United States is using the phrase. Remember, we are giving 3 Fs this year: faith, family, and friends. So please share the video and give an F to those you love. Until next time, let's go Brandon, and stay healthy, America.
It's time now for Reclaiming America with our counterculture mom, Tina Griffin. Tina, thanks for being here today.
Hey, no worries. I love Reclaiming America with you, Dr. Duke.
Let us begin our reclaim endeavor by looking at what's going on in California again, Salinas, California, where parents are furious over a new predatory LGBTQ club. Talk about this organization.
Yeah, well, Dr. Duke, we need 20 minutes for this one. My jaw was on the ground when I learned about what was going on. There's a leaked audio of 2 teachers at a Salinas, California middle school who revealed how they recruited kids into their LGBTQ club. 2 teachers, parents, there's absolutely an agenda behind this. The recording, which was obtained by the Epoch Times, captured 2 7th grade teachers, Kelly Baraki and Lori Caladiria, speaking at the California Teachers Association, which we know is corrupt. There was a conference back in October. The conference was called the 2021 LGBTQ Issues Conference, Beyond the Binary, Identity and Imagining Possibilities. Wow. According to the whistleblower who released the audio, the conference appeared to be about teachers showing other teachers how to undermine the authority of parents and school administrators and concealing activities related to gender inclusion and sexual orientation from them. She says these 2 teachers, as well as many others, mocked and laughed at parents who were concerned about LGBTQ indoctrination in schools. It's insane what happened at the conference, Dr. Duke. Blows my mind. The different workshops they had, the conniving ways to manipulate parents and hide things from parents, get the kids involved in these clubs. Blows my mind.
Well, even more than that, yeah, you said how they involve the kids, where they lie to these kids. One teacher actually said, we find the lowest performing kids. We really want the learning disabled kids, the kids who aren't as sharp as the other kids, who aren't as intelligent. Those are the ones you want to prey on. Those are the ones you can badger, not only into joining the club, but even to get them to change their gender because of a little coaxing.
Absolutely. They even explained in this supposed education conference for teachers, which is anything but, how to prey on children and recruit them into their club and keep it hidden from the parents. They gave the club at this school a name that's not obvious, and a lot of schools are doing this around the country. So parents, be alert. Their club is called UBU Club. No one would have known that was LGBTQ indoctrination. Then they suggested teachers not keep the attendance records. So if parents come and say, what's going on? My kid's attending this meeting. They can say, we don't know what's going on, and play dumb. That's literally what they were teaching. They then said that they saw their membership numbers decline in 2020 because everybody's doing online virtual learning. What did they do? They went after these students online. This is absolutely illegal, horrendous. These teachers need to be thrown in prison. Another strategy that they use is volunteering to run the morning announcements. That way they can control the messaging. This is verbatim what these teachers were saying on stage. They also suggested to the crowd that parents who refuse to call their child, the parents that refuse to call their children by the pronouns of the child's choosing, which they are being indoctrinated by the schools, should be arrested and charged with child abuse. I tell you what, this is absolutely insane. One parent, like you said, Jessica Conan, says that Calderia and Baraki planted a seed in her daughter's head that told her she was bisexual, then went on to convince the young girl that she was actually transgender boy, and then told her daughter information on how to bind her breasts and keep them from developing. I would be absolutely livid if anyone would talk to my kids like that. And frankly, I'm still livid for this parent.
Yeah, it is outrageous when you stop and think about it. What they did is they hijacked the school. They used every aspect of the control and the association with other teachers, meeting time, announcements, to transform that school into a grooming room for radical transgender ideology. We've got another story here that's also equally a little bit disturbing. Talk about Euphoria. What's going on here?
So the next issue is an HBO series starring Zendaya called Euphoria. We actually had to do this subject and topic in our Counterculture Mom app with our team because we got blown up by parents that were concerned. They were even texting me at this point, so we knew it had to be something hot to trot. This show is about teens whose lives are intertwined in sick and twisted ways to the point of profanity, drug use, graphic violence and abuse, tons of nudity, including full frontal male nudity. Are you kidding me? For our kids to be watching, it absolutely is illegal. The FCC should be contacted, and they should be in hot water for even pumping out the content that is porn for our kids. We strongly suggest not watching the series, obviously, as it possibly is the most graphic show on television, according to our Counterculture Mom team.
Yeah, it's that bad. And this is child-centered programming, right? They're going at what age kids are they trying to target with this show?
Man, we're seeing 9, 10, 11-year-old kids. And the problem is, even if they're not trying to target them, and they might say they're not targeting them, but they are, because that's what these kids are talking about in school. Oh, did you see a new Euphoria series? We got to check. And these celebrities that are in these roles, people have them on their poster on their wall and all over social media. They follow these people. So whatever they say goes in today's culture, which is why we're seeing the horrendous result of our kids with the issues that they're facing and dealing with. We axe Hollywood, get that junk out of their head, and we'll have a whole different culture and a country.
Tina, tell our audience how they access your stuff.
Absolutely. You got to check out Counterculture Mom app. Get it on Google Play. Download it free from iTunes. We have a premium section that everybody loves. It's $5 a month. Get it because you will be in the know every day with all of our pop culture alerts, including our recent Tuttle Twins resources. They now started a killer, pro-patriotic, God magazine for all kids. Parents, you got to get your hands on it. You get 40% off as well using code TINA at checkout on anything that Tuttle Twins has to offer. But get their magazine. Let's stop brainwashing our kids and making sure that our kids understand how America was founded, grounded, and forefathers birthed. Thank you for the shirt, by the way, you guys. You guys rock.
If you have a question for Dr. Duke and Katie, please send it our way by emailing askduke@fpeusa.org.
All right, before we wrap things up, I do want to take a moment to show some love to our Patriot Club members. Today, we'd like to give a great big shout out to Heidi from Citrus Heights, California. Thanks for supporting us. And that's going to do it for this show. I'm Dr. Duke. Until next time, stay educated, my friends.